A couple camping in the wilderness would warn friends about a creeper before tragically being killed. And a talented young woman would walk away from an Airbnb before vanishing into thin air. My name is Adrian, and welcome back to another video by Coffeehouse Crime. The structure of today's video is slightly different to my usual, as today we'll be focusing on two cases rather than just one. It was in September of this year, 2021, that the disappearance of Gabby Petito gripped the hearts and minds of people all across the world. In fact, the news over her disappearance was indisputably one of the most publicised missing persons cases ever. And although her case deserved the media attention that it received, there were several other cases which happened at the very same time that collated only a fraction of Gabby's coverage. This video looks at two more of those cases. And just to let you know, but I post solved, unsolved and strange cases here on a weekly basis, so if that sounds like your kind of thing, please consider subscribing to Coffeehouse Crime. We have a lot to unpack here, so without any further delay, pull up a seat, grab a coffee and sit back. Here are the cases of Kylen and Crystal, and of Lauren Cho. Our first story today begins in the state of Colorado. You can't get much further away from the coast when it comes to the Centennial State. But it makes up for its lack of beaches in many ways. Known for its beautiful landscapes, wildlife, and a huge variety of activities that lie in between, you will never get bored of the outdoors here. You have hiking, mountain biking, horse riding, skiing, canoeing, and much more. There are infinite reasons why almost 6 million people like to call Colorado home. Kylen Schulte was born here on September 5th, 1996, and 4 years later, her brother Makion would follow. From 2009 through to 2014, she attended Billings Senior High School, located in Billings, Montana. And while she was there, she would also work part-time as a welder. Moving into her adulthood, Kylen was a free-spirited woman. But her life wasn't always easy. After finding herself in an abusive relationship and losing her brother to a fatal shooting, she mentally relapsed into her own shell. And unfortunately, soon after this, she began to experience suicidal thoughts. During this tough time, her father Sean Paul noticed her pain. And so eventually, he convinced his daughter to move with him to Moab in Utah, where she could begin a new lease of life. It was in the year of 2019, while Kylen and Sean Paul were on a hike together, that they bumped into a stranger named Crystal Turner. And following their instant connection, Kylen and Crystal soon found themselves in love with one another. Crystal, who was originally from Hot Springs, had also recently moved to Moab. She was outgoing and known to bring joy and laughter to others. She too enjoyed the outdoors, and she loved to fish, hike, and camp. From here on out, Kylen's troubled history began to fade as her new life flourished. She would go on to tell her father that their move to Moab had quite literally saved her life. Kylen's social circle grew. Her interests became more profound. Her relationship with Crystal stronger. She obtained a job as a cashier at Moonflower Community Cooperative, and Crystal would soon find herself a job at McDonald's too. They moved in together, joined the van life community, had big dreams, and by April of 2021, the two were officially married. Crystal had even managed to buy herself a Harley Davidson, something that she had wanted for many years. To say that Kylen had finally found her feet is an understatement. With a new job, new friends, and a new way of living, she was finally happy again. All of it with thanks to a supportive father and loving partner. And this was a feeling she'd hoped would last forever. It was in the afternoon of Friday the 13th of August that Kylen finished her shift for the day at the Moonflower. And later in that same evening, she met with Crystal and a couple friends at Woody's Tavern, where surveillance cameras recorded the four having drinks. The bar confirmed that no one approached the group during the entire time that they were there, and nothing seemed amiss either. However, while at the bar grabbing drinks, Both Crystal and Kylen were very quick to tell their friends about a strange man who was staying right next to them at their campsite. Allegedly, he had been lurking around their tent, watching them and even intimidating them. And he gave off a very strange demeanour. Quite frankly, he was creeping them out. The conversation around this individual came up and passed by, and not long after, the four were on to other topics along with their drinks, before saying goodbye to each other at around 9:30. Kylen and Crystal then returned to their campsite on LaSalle Loop Road. They would continue texting friends later that night, one of them highlighting that the creeper had returned back to the campsite. He parked closer to them this time and appeared to be carrying clothes and food. But very shortly after this text message, Kylen and Crystal stopped texting back. 3 days would pass, and over the weekend, both women wouldn't get in contact with any of their friends or family. And as Monday the 16th of August came around, concern came knocking at the door. It was on this day that Crystal never showed up for work at McDonald's. And after being one person down, her manager couldn't get a hold of her either. But the strangeness didn't end there. Kylen would also miss her shift at work, and she too wasn't reachable by phone. It was in that moment that families started to worry, and by the afternoon, they had reported both women missing to police. The two wouldn't show up to work on Tuesday either, and by now it was very clear that something had gone wrong. With a general lack of media coverage and hardly any boots on the ground, the number of eyes available to search an area so vast made it a difficult procedure for loved ones to locate the pair. Police knew that if they intended to head back into work on Monday, they would have to be somewhere near Moab. But being nomadic folk, they didn't exactly have a house door that they could knock on. It was on the 18th of August that family friend Cindy Sue Hunter joined in on the search for Kylen and Crystal. She started off by searching the car park at McDonald's, a place where Crystal would often leave her Econoline van. And it was still there, but both women were nowhere to be seen. Fast forward a couple hours, and Cindy would eventually find herself searching LaSalle Loop Road, one of the many areas that she would have guessed the two would be camping. During this time, she was on the phone to Kylen's father, Sean Paul. And then finally, after passing by Whispering Oaks Ranch, Cindy recognised their silver Kia Sorento through a clearing. She parked up along FR 4651, a dusty trail just off LaSalle Loop Road, before exiting her vehicle to investigate. The campsite's atmosphere was peaceful, but it was also dreadfully quiet. Not one single man-made noise could be heard. The site was well equipped, with a propped tent and full of amenities, but no one was around. It was almost instantaneous that, as she walked closer, Cindy spotted something unusual towards the creek. And upon further investigation, curiosity confirmed her greatest fears. Tragically, she had found the mangled remains of Kylen Schulte. She was partially undressed, and had incurred multiple gunshot wounds. And close by, Crystal's body was located in a very similar condition. Tragically, at this moment, Cindy was still on the phone to Sean Paul, and after telling him that she had found his daughter's body, Sean Paul told her to get the hell out of there as fast as she could. The discovery was harrowing enough, but with the campsite in a very remote area, and two bodies within immediate proximity, the killer could still very well be around. Cindy ran to the car, fled as fast as she could, and dialed 911. With scarce publicity and coverage to this case, very little progress has been made on finding Kylen's and Crystal's killer. And although this case did briefly make headlines after rumours that Brian Laundrie may have been the murderer, it has since then faded into the background. Moab is just a small town of roughly 5,000 residents, and with Brian confirmed to be in a hotel down the road from the Moonflower for one night, it is actually fairly possible that the three did cross paths in town. But otherwise, there is nothing else that connects Brian to their deaths. And with 5 days of rain and hail before their remains were found, investigators were unable to capture any tyre tracks or footprints, and any potential DNA linked to the crime scene may very well have been washed away too. During the time of their murders, there was actually a wedding going on just an eighth of a mile down the road, in which about 100 guests attended the event. The main cabin even had vantage points which would have had clear views of the campsite. But, disappointingly, no suspects or sightings were deduced from this. And, even worse, police made no effort to control, interview, or even list those that attended. And, unfortunately, that's where this story currently ends. No one knows what happened to Kylen or Crystal, or who murdered them, or even why. Terrifyingly, it is reported that one of the final things Kylen said to her friends was, "If something happens to us, we were murdered." Kylen Schulte and Crystal Turner have left behind 2 families and many friends, all of which are determined to find justice for these 2 women. As for now though, the world is still none the wiser to what exactly happened, and investigations to this case continue. Our next case today takes us to New Jersey. And just like our previous case, this one received barely any media coverage at all. Lauren Cho, who was nicknamed Elle for short, was a 30-year-old Korean-American woman. She was described as multi-talented, hilarious, and a loyal friend. Lauren was born on the 20th of December 1990, and she was a native to New Jersey. She graduated from Hunterdon Regional High School in 2009, before attending Westminster Choir College to study in music education. During her teenage years, she earned a black belt in Taekwondo, and over the summer holidays, she toured with several choirs across Europe. By the year of 2015, when Lauren was in her mid-20s, she had successfully become a music teacher, working in a high school in Irvington Township. She was a talented soprano singer, and also headed the church choir in her local area. And to complement her creative personality, she was also a chef and an artist through her own passion. Similar to many of us who embark on a long academic path from childhood, Lauren found her adult self doubting her choice in career. And although she had a well-established circle of friends, was getting by just fine, and also made a ton of memories along the way, the 9-to-5 work week just wasn't cutting it anymore. She had become unmotivated in her life, and with that said, she wanted to move away from the East Coast to taste some freedom. It was during the autumn of 2020 that Lauren finally quit her job to start a new life away from teaching. And although she had recently split up with her ex-boyfriend Cody Orrell, the breakup was amicable, and they were still very good friends. Cody had aspirations to travel around America in his van, and so he invited Lauren if she would like to accompany him, which was an offer that she couldn't refuse. Their journey brought the pair of new travellers to Bombay Beach, a tiny coastal village located along the Salton Sea in California. And Lauren and Cody soon found themselves integrating into a community of artists and other bohemian creatives. It was at this stage that Lauren bought an old school bus. She had aspirations to convert it into a food truck that she could then use to make money and travel around in. She would begin this journey by cooking and hosting dinners in the Bombay Beach community, inviting her new friends to try out her many recipes. A move that would both create and solidify her position, as she soon became a foundational centre point to her own crowd. In June of 2021, both Cody and Lauren were invited to stay at an Airbnb called The Hole, a series of caravans located in the Yucca Valley in California. They were among several other guests, those of which that they knew from Bombay Beach. The Airbnb owner was actually their friend, who also turns out to be Tal Raspuli, an Italian-American filmmaker and musician and prince. And soon after this, Lauren became a private chef to the Airbnb property. It was around 3 p.m. on the 28th of June that Lauren Cho, for one reason or another, seemed upset. Cody noticed this, he wasn't sure why, but he didn't pry. Nevertheless, he could tell that something was bothering Lauren, and it's reported that shortly after this, the two had a brief verbal argument. With hot weather, and even hotter heads, Cody headed inside the tour bus to get some space. But when he returned just 10 minutes later, Lauren was surprisingly nowhere to be found. Which was kind of strange. After all, they were in the middle of nowhere. So if she wasn't on the property, where could she have gone to? Cody called out for Lauren, but no response. And after realizing that she was missing, Cody called 3 friends before calling authorities at 5 p.m. He noted to officers that she had Doc Marten boots on and was upset, but she left without her phone, belongings, food, or even water. Apparently she was dating again, but Cody didn't know who. And as for a motive or direction in where she went, that was anybody's guess. And after reporting her disappearance to police, that was it. Media coverage was sluggish, search efforts were small, and out of those efforts, nothing came to light. The life and existence of Lauren Cho just seemed to evaporate in the middle of the desert. By the 2nd of July, only 4 days after Lauren's disappearance, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department formally suspended all search and rescue efforts. It classified Lauren Cho as a missing persons case, citing no evidence of foul play. But the silence felt through Lauren's disappearance would do nothing but perpetuate over the months, as no sightings or clues to her location was ever found. And although friends and family made great effort to push her name out to the public, those attempts failed to ever materialize into something greater. Overhead aerial searches were eventually conducted over Yucca Valley, but no dice. And as for investigations on the ground, only tired legs and dehydration were found at the end of those very long days of searching. It was around this time that additional stress started to be felt in Lauren's case. As Gabby's disappearance started to take a firm grip over Western media, complaints over unequal reporting started to roll in. The general feeling was that, despite both cases being very similar to one another, Lauren's case had barely made it into the public's eye when compared to Gabby's. And statistics over this allegation unfortunately speaks for itself. When you compare the two names against each other on Google Trends, the search volumes for Lauren's name never even made 1% of Gabby's. And Gabby's father echoed this sentiment himself. In a statement, he said, "I want to ask everyone to help all the people that are missing and need help. And if you don't do that for other people that are missing, that's a shame. Because it's not just Gabby that deserves it." Special investigators eventually took over Lauren's case, and the friends and family of Lauren continued in their relentless determination to find her, frequently using their community page on Facebook called Missing Person Lauren L. Cho to keep those interested in the loop. It was on the 9th of October, around 3.5 months after her disappearance, that San Bernardino's County Sheriff's Department announced that they had found human remains in the deserts of Yucca Valley. And by the 28th of that same month, this concerning discovery had transformed into devastating news. Those remains that were found sadly belonged to Lauren Cho. Reports placing the approximate location of her body not even 1,000 feet from the Airbnb that she was staying in. In a statement posted to her Facebook page, Lauren's sister paid tribute to Elle and thanked everyone who accompanied them during their long search for her. Her sister wrote, "I have been the luckiest to have had 30 years of the best company. My family extends their thanks to all those who have waited with us, stood with us, cried with us, and hoped with us these past several months. The depths of our collective sorrow feels endless as grief demands space for its accompanying emptiness." And that's where we are today. Toxicology reports still have not yet been released, and neither has a determination on the manner of Lauren's death. I'm very sure that more details on Lauren's case will be reported very soon. Whatever those conclusions may be, however, this case will remain tragic. For me, one of the more devastating notes of this case is how Lauren's online coverage never even reached 1% of Gabby's. From disappearance all the way through to discovery, comparing the perceived notoriety of these two cases is like comparing a mouse to a titan, which is very saddening, considering they were both the same: human. You know, I have many questions on today's cases. For Lauren Cho, her body was found so close to the Airbnb. So, what exactly happened? Going full circle to Kylen's and Crystal's deaths, it is equally as tragic as Gabby's and Lauren's, but with a very terrifying twist, because no one knows who this Moab creeper is, or if he even is the killer. My greatest sympathy goes out not only to Lauren's family, but also to Kylen's, to Crystal's, to Emily's, and to Gabby's. Thank you so much for watching another video today by Coffeehouse Crime. A bit of a different format to my usual videos, but I took this community poll as a good sign to try something new. What do you think happened to Lauren Cho? And who do you think killed Crystal Turner and Kylen Schulte? Please let me know in the comments down below. That is all I have for today, folks, but I'll be back again in 1 week's time. Until that moment arrives though, look after each other. Goodbye.